School. We're at the old School for the Blind. Anybody that's from this area knows where we're at. We're right on Government Street, which is really quite important. Y'all, I'm going to set this for my timer so I don't talk too much, because I tend to. Nobody wants that. Here we go. There we go. Do y'all mind? I'm going to turn this way so y'all can hear me.
You got to stay in the view of it.
Oh, okay, sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not much on standing still. It's the teacher in me. I taught for a long, long time. And so I am at the Family Youth Service Center. We're right there on Government Street, 1120 Government Street. It's 9 acres, 14 buildings. And in those buildings, we have some of the most amazing agencies. And amazing agencies that are there that all work so well together. So we're one of the premier collaboratives. When someone walks in, I'll give you an example of some of the things we do. Back when we first started, a kid was brought to us, and he was a teenager, and he was so angry you could feel the heat off this kid. And he was brought to us by the police because he wasn't in school, and they asked him why he wasn't in school, and he told them that nobody would let him go to school. And as it turns out with this kid, what had happened was he got caught up in the flood. And so he was at the Superdome with his mother, and then his mother just disappeared. And so his grandmother, they ended up sending him to his grandmother, who was relocated here to Baton Rouge. So they were here. His school had flooded, so his records weren't there. And so when the grandmother tried to enroll him in high school, nobody would take him, which is against the law because of the McKinney-Vento Act, but nobody told him about that. But they said she needed a birth certificate, didn't have it. They needed his school records, didn't have it. And they said that, therefore, when she got those things, then she could come back. So this kid was sitting there at this house this whole time really wanting to go to school. And nobody would let him, and he was so angry. And so we called the grandmother to come pick him up, and the grandmother walked in, and we had talked to him a little bit, and already gotten some things set up for him. And the grandmother, she said, nobody will let me put him in school, because she thought she was in trouble. And it was, well, no, all you have to do is, and she just fell. Her whole body deflated. And it was, she thought I was going to tell her to go down to another place. So all you have to do is just go across the sidewalk. We've already got it started. Got him registered in school. Got him uniforms. Got him the supplies that he needed to start school. Set him up with a bus. And so that very next day, this kid was in school. And he wanted so badly to go to school that he did so well. He graduated from high school the following year. We were going to lose that kid. But he graduated from high school. Now what he's done since, I don't know. But I have another young man that was on the streets. This kid had lived on the streets for 3 years. He was in group homes and he kept running away. We got a telephone call from an elementary school principal because it was really, really cold and a bad freeze was coming. And she realized that this person that was sleeping in their gazebo at the school was actually a high school student, because she found his high school uniform shirt where he was washing them out and drying them, and he had forgotten one of them. And so we went to the high school and set a place to get him. That was not fun for him, and brought him to us. Well, this kid had spent 3 years in high school, never missing school, never getting in. He got in trouble one time, because we can pull school records. He got in trouble one time, and I would have gotten in trouble for that one. I understood that. But other than that, that was it. But he didn't have a place to live. And so we happened to have an emergency shelter apartment. And so he lived there at the center. And I watched him, I took care of him, and me and him were constantly at war about what I know was the smell of weed, and he said it was just my imagination. It's like, all right, I'm gonna bring the dog in, and I did. And he said, you had weed, man, we don't do weed here. That kid, though, finished high school. Now this kid's mother was incarcerated because she had killed a man. And so he had not seen his mother from the time that he was 10 years old. So he was an angry little boy. And then he has a father, but his father didn't really know him and really had nothing to do with him. And his father lived here in Baton Rouge. And the courts made him live with this man that didn't want him there. And so he kept leaving. And then so they put him in a group home. And in the group home, he wasn't going to stay there. He was a quiet kid. He was just a quiet kid. He wanted to be left alone. And group homes don't do that well. And so I talked to him, and they said as long as I would take care of him, as long as I would watch him, as long as we would make sure. And I say that, y'all, I don't mean to make it sound like it was me. It was everybody at that center was watching this kid. Everybody at that center was engaged in that kid. Everybody at that center cared about this kid. So he graduated from high school, but before he graduated from high school, his mother was also a very angry inmate because she didn't know what had happened to her little boy. And so I called the warden. She's in jail in Pearl River in Mississippi. And so I called the warden, and the warden gave me the chaplain, and the chaplain approved the idea that we could Zoom call. So she could see him walk across that stage, and she did. And she also saw him sign for a junior college to play football in California. And so the kid graduated from high school. He went on to junior college and came back, and he's in Mississippi, in junior college in Mississippi, finishing up. This was a kid that we couldn't afford to lose, because this was a kid that lived in the streets for 3 years and never became part of the streets. And so we wanted him to be okay. And he is. He's fine. He's got a little child now. He and his wife have got a little baby boy, cute as he can be. He's going to be fine. And the little boy is going to be fine. And that's what's most important, because the next generation is going to be okay. When we first got started, we had a lady that came in. She was sick because her daughter was not going to school. And y'all, you only have 180 days of school. That's it. You know? And this kid had missed 160 unexcused absences. She was in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. Mom was in a lot of trouble. But this is what happened with that one. With that one, they walked in. Before they walked in, we had a staffing. So everybody sat around, and we talked about what we knew about this little girl and the family. Because it doesn't do any good to see something that's two-dimensional, just the paperwork. And yeah, that kid had missed so much school. But if you look back on it and you saw when these things started, there was a pattern. There was a pattern of when it started, and it just kept growing from year to year. So something happened. Didn't know what yet, but one of the people that was there said, well, do you know that there's 4 more at that same house? No, we didn't. So we pulled those records and saw that the younger ones were going to school, but as they got older, they were stopping also. So we knew a little bit, and then the police officer that was sitting there said, that name sounds familiar. Let me go pull the record. And he pulled the record of the household and found out that there was all kinds of things that had gone on there. There was prostitution, there was domestic violence, all kinds of things that had gone on there. So you get an idea of what you're dealing with. Then Mama comes in. Now this is what's really important here. Mama came in with the little girl, but also with another child. And this other little child was 6 years old and had never been in school at all. Never been registered. So the mama sits there, and she's got the little girl in her lap. And the little girl tugs on her and is whispering in her ear. And this is what I saw. I saw this mama that didn't get aggravated. She didn't get aggravated. She whispered back. She whispered back to her little girl. And after a little while, she said, excuse me, can we take a break for just a minute? Because we were asking lots of questions. Can we take a break just a minute? And where's the bathroom? This was a good mama. She didn't fuss at the kid. She didn't do anything terrible. This was a good mama that had some problems. So I asked her, what happened on this day? Because at this time, everything seemed to go downhill quickly. What had happened is that she had gotten in a car wreck, the mother did, and she needed to have her leg amputated, but she had that 6-year-old that she had to take care of. And that's, you can't get a prosthetic because it's deemed cosmetic. And so she would have been having to take care of her child and her other children without a leg. And so she chose not to do that. And because she chose not to do that, she ended up getting addicted to pain pills. So there was a story, and there was a story that made a lot of sense. And the girls, the one that was in so much trouble, when that happened, she started taking care of the siblings to make sure that the siblings were in school. And so at that point, it just snowballed. It got so much worse. So anyway, we talked to the mama, we talked to the kids, and I learned a lesson. I smart aleck. I learn lessons from people all the time. But I said, there's no excuse in this child not being in school. So she said, well, I've tried. I said, well, we're going to take care of it right now. So I pulled out my laptop. Y'all, I've got several degrees, and so do everybody there at that center. And there were 3 other people besides me, so it just wasn't my dumb self. We got through it, and we were putting it all together to get that birth certificate for that child, to get her enrolled in school. And then we came to the truth on what the problem was. She needed a bank card. She didn't have a bank card. She needed a bank card. Well, now, she was never going to get past that hurdle. I had a bank card. And so if you don't walk in these shoes, you don't understand what the trail is that they're walking through. Because sometimes there's alligators everywhere. And so we were able to get the child in school. We were able to get them all in school. Now, I would love to tell you that this ended up to be a wonderful story. And it sort of did. Remember, there were 5 kids. The oldest one, we straight up lost. She did really good that first year. But the other ones, not so much. I mean, with her, not so much. The other ones did great. But this is the rest of that story when you think about it on down the line. Why this place is as important as it is. Everybody kicked in to help these children. But these little girls had not been at school, and they were girls. That matters. They were girls, which means that they are the future, and they're the mothers of the future. And so therefore, you got to get them stable. And these little girls weren't going to school. But they had been out of school. That one had been out of school for 3 years. It didn't, I mean, she didn't know anything. And the other ones, most of them had been out of school at least 2 years. So our thought was, here we are, we're forcing them back in school. What are we forcing them to do? So what we wanted to do is pour tutoring into them. We'll do whatever it takes to get them, because I didn't want to cause a problem. They never called. They never came to do tutoring. We offered to go to the school. I called the school. The school said the kids were doing fine. Y'all know these little girls were so doggone smart that by the end of that school year, all of those girls had come up to grade level. Every single one of those girls had come up to grade level. Do you realize what this community would have lost? What we would have lost if we had not found those girls. Now, the one, she had been exposed to things that she couldn't get past. And so, therefore, I haven't seen her in a long, long time. But the other ones I see every once in a while, the mom comes in. The mom comes in, just say hello. But then there's one more story that I'm going to tell. And this is important because this is who we are. There was a man. We have crime victims assistance there from the sheriff's office. And so a lot of times people will come there because of that. They come in usually to get a check to bury somebody. In this case, the man had come in. He was a big man. So at my desk, I can see everybody that's walking up the sidewalk. And he was 6'3", 6'4", big man. And when he walked in, he looked like he was carrying the whole world right on his shoulders. And he was coming to get a check to bury a nephew. And he looked like there was more. He looked like there was more. And he looked like he wanted to tell us. And so I asked him, you know, can we help you in any other way? And so it's like, we have our own children. And then there's this niece that we've got to take care of, and we don't know what kind of trouble she's going to have. But my wife it's her sister that created the problem. And so we've taken this child in, and we have nothing. We have nothing to take care of a baby. So it was like, let's see what we can do. And so then he went on over to see Ricky, which, by the way, Ricky Ruffin, oh my goodness, Ricky Ruffin is absolutely amazing. She works for the sheriff's office, and so she is God's gift to East Baton Rouge Parish. And Ricky Ruffin gave him the check, and she talked to him for a little while. And she called and she said, you know, they need diapers for the baby, they need formula for the baby, but they don't know what kind of formula. They need baby bib, because they don't have baby bib. And as it turns out, just the day before, somebody had brought a pack and play. So we were able to give them pack and play. The formula we were able to get from Fathers on a Mission, because they had all that formula there. Everybody kicked in as though we all were one, because we all are. With lots of agencies, but everybody's working together. So Fathers on a Mission gave all different kinds of formula so that they made sure they would have what was best for that baby. And then Capital Area Family Justice Center provided them with basic clothing like sleepers and some diapers for the baby, and they took care of that. We gave them the pack and play, so that was taken care of. And then I had some baby clothes that was left over from my great-grandbaby, so we were able to give clothes for the baby. And so when he left, and then Ricky was able to also hook him up at that time with other resources that are out there that would come to them and help them. And so in one spot, this man had everything he needed. And now this was the thing. And this is what makes my job as wonderful as it is. That day, I saw, and I see it a lot, I see the worst in humanity and the effects of it. But that man that was taking in a child that was not his responsibility, and he was going to take care of that. And I saw people at that center step in as though it was their own family member. Seamlessly. And they do this every day. So I'm just telling y'all, this was an example. They do this every day at that center. I saw the worst and the best of the same moment. And I couldn't help but thinking that that man, when he was walking out there, thinking that this is a man that God has put on this earth to be the angel for this child. And then I realized that all these people at that center are the angels for children. And that's what we do. You walk in, we don't send you down the street, because sometimes they pay food stamps to get to us. And so when they get to us, we're going to do everything we can to find the answer for them. And that's we. That's not me. And I hate that I'm standing up here. What I should have are 50 other people up here, because honestly, I am nothing but the person that's sitting at the front desk. I am triage. That's it. It's everybody else at that center that are the most amazing human beings on this planet. And they do so many wonderful things. And if you'll look at that flyer that I gave y'all, the brochure, on the inside, it'll tell you the agencies that are there right now. But what we really need, and this, I'm going to wrap this up at this point, what we really need is we have this one building. It's 13,330 square feet. And that at the beginning of this next year, January 2026, we're looking forward to having that filled with services. Whatever services we don't have, we're the best deal in town. And the whole idea is when you walk in, you don't need to walk anyplace else. You don't need to call anyplace else. If it's something that we don't have, we'll pick up the phone for you and call for you. Whatever agency you walk to, I can assure you they are going to hook you with whatever agency you actually need, because sometimes you don't have a clue what you need. And there's the problem. If they walk into our doors, quite often it's because they've reached the end. This is one of their worst moments. And we really want it to be a way to where they can start seeing light. And so, I have talked an awful lot and said probably not nearly enough. And I hope that I haven't given y'all the impression that this is about me, because it is not. It is not. It is about all these people. It's the people with Stephanie Hicks that finds children when nobody else can find them with the East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office. She's amazing. We've got DCFS with foster care that's there. We've got Capital Area Family Justice Center that's there that does everything when it comes to domestic violence. They help people through that. We've got Lori, Louisiana Organization of Refugees and Immigrants, that's there. They do English classes and they do citizenship classes. We also have Unbound Now that works with young women who are trafficked. We have Mayo Behavioral and work with substance abuse for adults. And next week, whenever August is, whenever that begins, we've got a new behavioral center that's coming, and they work with kids who are 4 years old and up. So I'm really looking forward to that, because that was an empty spot that we didn't have filled. It's going to be filled in August. So we'll have that. And we have Travail. Travail is a food bank that runs twice a month. Very respectful food bank. It's not just any food bank. You come in, you tell them what you will eat, and they'll give you what you will eat. So you don't have to throw away gallon jugs of peaches. They give you what your family will eat. So I love it. I love them. We've got Fathers on a Mission. I am the welding shop and the fabricating shop for front yard bikes is right there. And we've got Innovation Academy that starts up the 1st of August. That's my kind of thing, because it's all about project learning. So that's going. But then we've got that one. We've got Truce. Truce works with kids who are easily fall prey to gang activity or group activity, street group activity. So we've got them there as well. So lots of people doing lots of amazing things. And they all work so close together that they walk in and they come for crime victims assistance, and before they know it, they've been helped by a dozen different agencies. And no one really cares that their name is not on it. They just want to make sure that the person's helped. You'll never find Jasmine was asking about collaborations. You'll never find a group that collaborates better than this, because everybody just kicks in. What do you have? What can you do? And they do it. So, all right, questions? Yes, ma'am.
So how are you funded?
Oh, that's a great question, because you see, the thing is we run so small at the Family and Youth Service Center. It's me, one maintenance man, and one person that's answering the phone right now. But everybody else pays for their own staff. Oh, I'm sorry, the question. I apologize. She said, how are we funded? And so we don't need a whole lot of funding. The state lets us use it, but that's a trick to that. With using it, we have to maintain it. So that's where our expenses come. But we're able to do that. We charge. Well, that's what I was going to tell you. The staffs are funded through everybody. The funding comes from very inexpensive lease payments of $1.50 per square foot per month that pays for all things, because we need them there. We need services there. Now, you can't just locate there and get great rent prices. You have to actually feel a need for families. And so we're cautious about who comes, but that pays our expenses. It pays our expenses on $1.50 a square foot per month. That's it. And so, no. From the different people who are leasing or who are locating there. So all the services pay that. And so, for example, we've got Capital Area Family Justice Center. They're paid through LCLE, which is Louisiana Commission of Law Enforcement. And part of that is the rent payment that they pay to be there, which is $1. With them, that's a whole building, so they get $1.25 a square foot. The whole building get that. But that pays for utilities, it pays for Wi-Fi, the only thing you have to do is you have to clean up after yourself. That's it.
So this new building that you're going to open in January, is it going to be funded in that same way?
It'll be funded in the same way. The new building that we're going to be opening up in January, the services the question was if how the new building that we're going to be opening up in January, how that's going to be funded. The same way. It works real well, because all the services. So if you've got a room that is a 10 by 12, you're paying, I think it's like $350 a month, and you get everything. And so it works real well for even startup nonprofits. And you don't have to be a nonprofit. You can be for-profit, but you have to be somebody that provides services to families. And it has to fit a niche that's needed, that is desperately needed, that will be there. And so, yeah, they pay it, and so it pays overhead. And that's all that pays for. So we're able to keep the cost down way low, because we're not staffing any of these offices. They are. The different agencies are. It works out great. But great question. Yeah, Gary? DCFS.
When they have trouble, how do y'all work together? Who makes the final decision? Because we have a lot of trouble with this. We have the mama, the adopted kids. Who makes that decision? They working in there with y'all? Then y'all, that's the governor's office or that's the state. Are y'all tying in anywhere with Roxson?
With DCFS, Gary's question was how we work with DCFS. DCFS has an office there for foster care. And so they put meetings together for foster care. And so we assist them with that. But we have a really good relationship now with DCFS, always able to talk to them. But you know, DCFS is an agency. And so we talk to them, we work with them, we try to help them see a different side sometimes. And they've been really good lately. Well, it's gotten better. It's gotten better, and it's a big problem. It's a big problem, big issues. We're involved in a lot. It's amazing. I know, and there's the problem. The problem with us is this. We are so busy doing things that it's hard to find the time for people to know who we are. And so this is the thing, and this is the truth. We've been there since 2011. I can assure you that every single person in East Baton Rouge Parish or the surrounding parishes that need us know where we are. Because the police tell them, social services tell them, the schools tell them, the judges tell them. So the people who need us find us, and we're so glad that they do. But the people that we need, like the people who have money, and the people who have resources, and the people who have the ability to make differences in laws, they don't know much about us. And that's because that's my fault, and that is my fault. I just don't know how to find the time to be able to do the PR for people to know what we do. And so you're right, it's an amazing place. Yes?
Roxson, is this model being used or suggested for other parts of the state?
He asked if this model is being suggested for other parts of the state. I wish it would be. And I'm going to tell you what's so amazing about this. What you've got is you've got school systems talking to services who also share information. Well, they don't share it. The school system doesn't share, but they've got police that share information that's needed. So we're able to find children. We're able to find the rest of the story. Instead of having that two-dimensional story, you get three, and that includes, that means that everybody's got to work on the same page. We do it real well here in Baton Rouge because, believe it or not, people here in Baton Rouge really do care about making sure that services and people are better. And so everybody, I have not seen a problem with anybody protecting their turf there at that center. I've never seen it. But that means that you've got the mayor's office working with the sheriff's office, working with the DA's office, working with the school systems, including the charter schools. So everybody's working together. And that is sometimes very hard to replicate. We've always been able to do it, and I think it's because they've always been part of us. And so there's never been a problem at the center. So I understand that there is a problem, we've just never seen it. Yes, sir?
I didn't think I was going to have a question.
I knew you would.
Occasions and visits your facilities, once or twice a month. What would it take, since y'all going to be doing this, for y'all to get a better parking lot?
Oh, we have a better parking lot. He said, what would it take for us to get a parking lot? We have a better parking lot. We have 2 better parking lots. They're inside our gates. And so all you have to do is let us know that you're there and that you've got business there. We let you in the gate. And we've got a great, big, huge, hard top parking space as well as a gravel spot. We've got plenty of parking. Yeah, I know, that's it. You're talking about that little spot that we've got in the corner of Eddie Robinson and Government Street. That's a little tiny spot. But we've got other parking on the inside. Yes?
So that building used to be the deaf school and the school for the blind, as I recall. So it's owned by the state of Louisiana?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and so you all pay rent to the,
No, we maintain it. And so she said the school is owned by the state, and it was the School for the Visually Impaired since 1860, which is really kind of cool. It dates all the way back to 1860. And so we are owned by, it is owned by the state, the facility is. We have to maintain it. And that can get quite expensive, but the state helps us with the really large things. Like right now, they just got through putting in an air conditioning system in one of the buildings. And so they help us with a really large overhead, which thank goodness they do, because we wouldn't be able to do that.
and is that coming from the Department of Education, or?
No, it's very interesting where it comes from. Because it dates back to 1860, there's always been a question on who actually owns it. And so it's it was donated, the land was donated by a paper company for books. They made Braille. And so it was donated back then. So they assumed back in 1860 though, okay? And so they assumed it was for the school system, but that wasn't exactly what it was done. It was given to the state of Louisiana. And so because of that, it's the Division of Administration as well as Bessie. So everything that you do with both. Because it's never really been answered, that question. The only thing we're sure of is the state. Kind of a neat idea, huh? We do have a building there that goes back to 1860. Yes, sir.
Obviously, you have a center that is meeting a tremendous need. I wonder, though, as I'm looking at what's going on at Baton Rouge, and I did that meeting last Wednesday with the group that's working downtown. What could be done to address or prevent these situations? What is the underlying cause or the underlying causes that put people into your system?
He asked, what is the underlying cause of what puts people in our system? And the underlying cause is a multitude of things, and everybody is a unique person. And you can sit with these children that are that create chaos and are angry people, and then you talk to them. The first thing that I ask them, if they come in and end up talking to me, which sometimes they do, simply because they just do. First thing I ask them is, who is it that you don't want to disappoint? Now, y'all in this room, every single person in this room has somebody when you were a child you did not want to disappoint. It could be your grandmother, it could be your neighbor, it could be somebody, but you had somebody, or you wouldn't be a successful human being that you are right now, I can assure you. And the whole idea is you've got to have somebody that you didn't want to disappoint when you're a child, to the point where the person you don't want to disappoint is yourself. But you got to grow to that point. And so with that being said, if I've got a kid that sits in front of me and says, there's nobody that hadn't disappointed me, so why should I care? Then that's a problem. That's a big problem. And so the community itself, y'all, it's a huge problem, but it's like looking at starvation in a country. And the reason, and you people, y'all are press, you know what it is. If you put that there's thousands of people starving to death in a particular country, people don't give anything for thousands of people because the problem is too doggone big. But if you put the picture of a child, then they'll help that child. The truth is that's what it always comes down to, is that child. You've got to be able to have sources and resources that address the need of that child, because it's different no matter who it is. Every single kid that has a problem has their own problem that's very different from others. So you can't just put something that's a Band-Aid and expect it's going to be okay for everybody. You got to take the time to ask. You got to take the time to find out. And that's the answer to all of this. But is there enough people to do that? I can't tell you. I really can't tell you that there's enough people to do that. I can tell you this about Baton Rouge. I've never seen a community that cares more than Baton Rouge does whenever there's a problem. And so the thing that I tell everybody, just be kind. Be kind. It goes a long, long way, you know, and take the time. If you've got a kid that you know is struggling, just say hello every once in a while. It's surprising how that matters. Because honestly, that's why kids hug their teachers every morning. Sometimes that's the only hug they get. So you got to be aware of this. But you can't help the problem as the big problem. I don't believe you can. I may be wrong. I don't know that answer. But I can tell you, you can help stop the problem. And there's the issue. Those little girls I told y'all about, you'll never read about them. And so they're not part of the problem. You'll never read about my Dante. You'll never read about him. He's not part of the problem. You'll never read about the kid that Stephanie saved out of the East Baton Rouge Parish Public Library that was living there. You'll never read about those kids. So they're not part of that problem. The problem would be much larger if this place wasn't here. I can assure you of that. But they've got to walk in our doors for somebody to be able to know about them. And can we help them all? We didn't help that one. She came. And there are so many more that we didn't help, and I know that. But I can tell you the ones that we do are multitudes compared to the ones that we can't. And the only reason the ones that we can't happen is because we didn't get to them fast enough. And that's the way it is with all of them. All these kids that we've lost, no one gets to them soon enough.
I guess what I'm hearing, though, is that you're in response mode.
Yes.
What, I mean, I look at things in the state of legislature does. I worry that we're not digging deep enough, not starting early enough to try to provide a foundation, give some kind of whatever it is. And I don't know who's taking that.
No, I agree with you on that. No, I agree with you. His question was, or his statement was, that the problem is I am in a response mode. You're right. Now, I also am in a triage where I help the other kids. It's like those 4 kids. You know, there's 5 of them. 1 of them we lost, 4 of them we saved, and those are the ones we weren't responding to. We just did because we found out about them. I think that everybody has to do that. But what can you do on a state level? I can tell you, I was a teacher for 20 years. I can tell you, if you wait till the 3rd grade, everybody points to the 3rd grade as being the day. The day. If they don't get out of the 3rd grade with their 3rd grade level, then they're doomed. And the thing about it is, it's not doomed to it's not, you shouldn't worry so much about them going to prison, you should worry about them being victims. So it's victimization as well as perpetrators. It can be both. But by the 3rd grade, if you waited that long, you've waited too long. Because it's too much. You've got to help children from the very beginning, and people have to pay attention to the children. And honestly, the people that have the greatest opportunity are the teachers. The teachers see the children. They see these book sacks that nobody is checking the paperwork. And you don't judge the mamas. You can't judge the mamas. You don't know what they're walking through. So do some in-services. Teach teachers to be better people and help. And so, I'm sorry, I've talked too long? No. Okay. And so there's the thing. What can be done? You've got to pour resources in very early. You've got to make sure these kids are really in school. So many are not ever even registered. You've got to pay attention to that. The homeschooling can be wonderful, but it also can be a trick to where they're not going to school at all. You got to pay attention to this, because I'm going to tell you something. We have a thing that you remove obstacles and provide options. You can't provide options to somebody that doesn't have an education. All you can do is the best you can do, but you're not going to provide a whole lot of options if they don't have an education or the ability to get one. And that is an absolute fact. And so and there's the problem with being in politics. In politics, you got a 3-year window. You get elected and you better get something done in 3 years. You can't fix this problem in 3 years. But you can start to fix this problem so that 10 years from now, the problem suddenly you're starting to see, yeah, this is working. That's way down the road for politicians. And I get it, because for them to survive, they've got to be reelected. For them to be reelected, they've got to show advance. And I understand that. but you're not gonna get it done if you don't start very young. That's my answer to that. Yes. All right. That's my 5-minute warning. And so I preached enough, I think. I'm sorry. I apologize. But thank y'all for listening to me. Y'all, my place, I'm sorry. I mean, use that word. I live there practically, and so I call it my place. But the Family News Center is open. You don't have to have an appointment to come in. No one has to have an appointment to come in. And so people do walk in off the street, and people do call us, and people are sent to us. But you need to come too. You can't believe this place until you've seen it. We've got gardens, we've got all kinds of things. Yes, sir. Holly. No, she's letting me know.
I have a 5-minute warning. Thank you.
She's letting me know. Y'all, we do all kinds of things. We've got a children's garden there that has fruit trees. And the fruit trees are there for anybody that wants them. But you know what we saw? This was really kind of neat. This man, I'm a country girl, and so I like to plant things. And so I had some muscadine vines, and I had a couple of them that were left over from the children's garden, so I planted them at the front on Government Street. And this old man, I watched him in August, because that's when muscadines come ripe. And every morning he would walk down, and he'd pick as many muscadines as he could get from the street. And every afternoon he'd come back by and he'd pick some muscadines on the way back. And I knew one day that there was probably not any more on that side, so I walked out to visit with him. And he told me that that was his only source of sugar and sometimes hydration. And so he was so grateful for those muscadines. And so this is what we did. W. DeBosier gave me a grant, and we planted a sidewalk orchard. And that sidewalk orchard has fig trees, it has blackberry bushes with no thorns, all along the front sidewalk at Government Street. And it's right there for people to pick. And when they're ripe, I put a sign up, help yourself, they're ripe. And so those things anybody can do. And it's wonderful to watch. I had this one, we had this one, our very first orange that was getting ripe. Very first orange. And everybody was watching this orange because it was the first one. And then my maintenance man had been watching it very, very closely. So he was so excited. He came in and he says, "It's ripe." I said, "I know it's ripe." So he went out there to get it. And just as he was fixing to get it, a guy on the other side of the sidewalk picked it up. So I was like, all right, then you weren't fast enough. But we got fig trees. We got everything that's there. So yeah, you're welcome. We've got some really big figs that are LSU Gold. They're ripe. Come see. Big ones. So any other questions? Thank y'all for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the invitation.
Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for coming today. Next week, we're going to be hearing from Congressman Cleo Fields, and on August 4th, we'll be welcoming East Baton Rouge School Superintendent Lamont Cole. All right. Y'all have a great week.